Hello guys, welcome back. My name is Nathan, and today we need to talk about a team that is in some big trouble so far this season in the Jim Benning and Travis Green Vancouver Canucks, who started their season off with a 5-9-2 record and have just been absolutely horrible this year. Now I might go on a little bit of a rant today because there's so much going on with this Vancouver team that I need to talk about, so much that has gone wrong with them that we need to break down. But when it comes to the Vancouver Canucks so far this year, on a 5-9-2 record, they were expected to do much better this season, and I expected them to be a playoff team. But what's gone wrong with the Vancouver Canucks this season? Who is truly to blame for these issues? And what can the Vancouver Canucks do next? And what will they do next in their search for some actual wins? Watch till the end for the entire breakdown, all the Vancouver Canucks talk, and make sure you hit that subscribe button if you are new. 60% of the people that are watching are not subscribed. If you like hockey, this channel is the place to be. Now, we've talked in the past this season over teams like the Seattle Kraken who started off terrible, and since then they've been even worse somehow, which is crazy to see. But this Vancouver team is especially different because this was supposed to be the season that was different. Again, I saw them being a playoff team. I didn't see them being amazing, but I did see them making the playoffs in what would have been a weak Pacific Division. So far, that definitely has not been the case, and the Vancouver Canucks have definitely reaped the failure of that. But this Vancouver team under Jim Benning, under Travis Green, was supposed to be so much better, was promised to be so much better from the management and from the ownership, and from day one was supposed to be the better team that the Vancouver Canucks and their fans have desperately wanted after the failures of last season. And after 7 years of Jim Benning management, this was supposed to be the year that it all came together on defense, on forward and goaltending. It was supposed to be the team that Jim Benning has been building for all this time. And now we pretty much get confirmation that Jim Benning instead was pretty much building nothing from day one. With this team, they have been absolutely horrible, and now under Travis Green seem to basically have no motivation whatsoever, especially over these past few days and really in the past few games. They've now lost 4 games. In almost every single one of those, it feels like the Canucks, and it feels like from the players' standpoint as well, they've just pretty much given up on the team, and that's come as well through the stats. Now, the Vancouver Canucks have lost 4 straight. They're 7th in the Pacific, 27th in the NHL standings. Again, this team was supposed to be the best team that Jim Benning has assembled. They're also right now 26th in goals scored per game with 2.450, and they're also 27th worst in goals against per game with a 3.38 rate. On defense, on offense, it's all been horrible, and it's all been horrible for this Vancouver Canucks team that was supposed to be so much better. Now, you may be asking, why are the Vancouver Canucks this way? Why are they playing so badly? Who is to blame? What is going on with the players? And hold up, we're going to answer all those questions throughout today, so just take a breather and we'll get right into it. And we're going to just go through the top scorers for Vancouver this season to see, when it comes to the players at least, what's gone wrong. And when you look at at least the top 2 scorers, it's not actually too bad, because JT Miller is leading the team in points and is above a point per game. Right now, 7 goals, 11 assists, 18 points in 16 games played. Then you got Quinn Hughes right behind him, who has 12 assists, 2 goals, 14 points in 15 games played. Then you got Garland, number 3 in team scoring. In 16 games played, is 3 goals, 6 assists, actually 9 assists for 12 points. And then at number 4, you got Horvat, 5 goals, 5 assists, 10 points, 16 games played. And then number 5 in team scoring, Nils Höglander, who hasn't had that much power play time, has gotten 16 games, 5 goals, 4 assists for 9 points. But after that top 5 is where it kind of all starts to crumble, at least for me, and we get some players that should be much better. First things first, in 6th in team scoring, you have Elliotte Pettersson, who up to this point in 16 games played has 3 goals, 6 assists, and 9 points. Even though he has been better in the past couple of weeks, he once again started off the season absolutely horrible and is still trying to play catch up. Almost exactly what happened last season, and even though he has been better, he still hasn't gotten back to that Elliotte Pettersson game that he really was nailing in the first couple of seasons of his NHL career. That second year as an NHLer, Elliotte Pettersson was one of the best players, I thought, in the NHL. He was absolutely amazing, but we haven't seen Pettersson get back to that level of play since, and I think that's a big reason why we've seen some regular season struggles for Vancouver. You also have at number 7 in team scoring, Brock Boeser, who has played less games at 13, but only has 4 goals, 4 assists for 8 points, and he's another guy that also has kind of felt like he's not given up, but hasn't been as good as he should be, and he's a player that was great last year when the whole Vancouver team around around him was crumbling, and so far this year is a guy that does need to be better and does need to put more points on the board. This Vancouver team wants to get consistent goal scoring, but is another guy that seems a little bit lost in Travis Green's system. Then you got another guy, in my opinion, who's super interesting at number 8 in team scoring, Tanner Pearson, who's been on a top 6 spot seemingly in the entire season for Vancouver, and in 16 games played has 2 goals, 4 assists for 6 points, and that's just simply put not good enough for a guy that's supposed to be a top 6 scorer. Now, one thing that I want to touch on is, of course, the defense and the goaltending, and when I say defense specifically, I don't just mean the defensemen of the team, I also mean the team forwards and how they're playing on D, and so far I think that aspect has been really disappointing. Guys like Elias Pettersson, JT Miller, other guys like Alex Chason have been absolute doo-doo on defense and have not produced any results whatsoever and have been net negatives in their own zone. And then you have the defense, where I think the really only big standout defensively has been Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who I think is huge, being as good as he has been defensively for this Vancouver team. I think it could have resulted in a much worse season if he had played like he had in the past couple of years for Arizona, but it looks like he's back at least defensively, and that's good to see, even though the offense hasn't quite been there as it has been in years past. But you have other guys in the team that defensively have not been up to snuff. I don't think a guy like Kyle Burrows or even Tucker Poolman have been amazing, and Quinn Hughes obviously isn't the best defensive defenseman in the world, and it seems like besides Oliver Ekman-Larsson, the defense has just been relatively at best. And then you have the goaltending with Thatcher Demko, which is a super interesting part of this Vancouver team to me. He's played 12 games, played and has an .898 save percentage and a minus 3.54 goals seed above expected. Now, I think there has been quite a bit of games this season that Thatcher Demko has been trying his best and has just gotten shelled or maybe potentially stolen. But I think there's also been some games where just the workload is too much for Demko, and it seems like he's falling under the pressure. Kind of reminds me of maybe a John Gibson situation maybe a couple of years back when that started to happen, where Gibson was so good, but it started to go off because the Ducks just gave him so much of a workload that eventually he started to crumble, and that might be kind of the same situation with Demko in Vancouver. Although he hasn't been amazing himself, and obviously there has been a lot of goals because of him, there has just been a lot of workload on his plate, and again, a lot of games where he's needed to save and just hasn't been able to get it done because of the workload that's been put on his plate. Now, I've been talking about the stats and everything when it comes to these players, but when we go down to the nitty-gritty of it, when we look at this Vancouver team, and especially this losing streak where they've lost 4 straight and they're just looking absolutely lost, the Canucks have looked lost. And even though Jim Benning, I think, should be fired, Travis Green has been just awful. And it feels like Travis Green specifically has lost this Vancouver Canucks team. That game versus Anaheim was a huge indicator of that, in my personal opinion, because the Vancouver Canucks pretty much, in my opinion, throughout a bunch of that game, practically gave up. And it felt like the team knew how bad they were and weren't trying to really change anything, which I think is a big thing maybe towards Travis Green, that the Canucks just don't want to play for him anymore. They don't want to truly succeed with him anymore, which is crazy to see after how much success was brought with Vancouver with him during the 2020 bubble. But then we have to go to the real man in charge here in Jim Benning, the GM of the Vancouver Canucks, who has, I'm pretty sure, been there for 7 seasons now, or 7 years, and has this team to show for it. Now, I think a lot of Canucks, or not a lot of Canucks fans, but a lot of NHL fans in general like to point to Travis Green being the main problem. And yes, Green is a problem that I think definitely needs to be solved. But at the same time, let's not kid ourselves. Jim Benning appointed Travis Green as the coach. He put full trust into Travis Green as the coach, kept him for this big season that was supposed to be so much better, and had all the trust under him to get it done. Jim Benning wanted Travis Green. He wanted what is happening right now, and I feel like that does not get enough attention. I feel like this Vancouver team on paper, yes, is actually pretty decent. I think they can do some big things, but the coaching that you entrusted has been horrible, and I feel like that's a big part of any GM's job. Yes, the team on paper is important, but if your GM can't get the right coach, it doesn't matter whatsoever. Now, Travis Green has been coach since 2017, and he's the most likely guy to go here, let's be honest. Jim Benning being the guy, I'm not quite sure about that, but Travis Green is an easy axe, an easy guy to put all the blame on, and he does have a lot of blame. He's been on this team since 2017 and has been instructed to basically build this rebuilding team into something that can truly contend, build guys like Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes, and build those guys up into huge stars. And so far, that has been the case through some seasons. 2020 was a good example of that, where guys guys like Pettersson, guys like Hughes were doing fantastic, but since then it feels like Travis Green has lost those guys. He's lost the system that brought them success, and that should be a big problem against the GM that trusted Green to be the guy for a multitude of years and to bring on this new era of Canucks hockey. Instead, Travis Green has done pretty much the opposite and has brought major disappointment once again. That again should be a lot of blame on Travis Green, but a lot of the blame should be on Jim Benning, who basically allowed and hired this to eventually happen. Now, we haven't really heard too many rumblings about what will actually happen with this Vancouver team, but you guys want to know what I think is going to happen with this Vancouver team. I think what's going to happen is that Travis Green is going to be sacked, and then they're going to bring in a coach for another 3 years and repeat this whole entire process again, and I think like that's exactly what's going to happen. I don't think anything is going to happen to Jim Benning this season. Maybe afterwards, maybe, but I think that's some big optimism in my opinion. They're going to go through another coach, they're going to rinse and repeats, and Jim Benning's going to get a 10-year opportunity as Canucks GM. I'm just basically waiting for that at this point. But it's going to be another situation where a Canadian GM gets about 1,551 chances to be an actually good GM. It doesn't matter if you're a good GM or not. You can just be horrible and still get a job, because that's how these Canadian markets work. I mean, Brad Living's obviously turned the Flames into something good this season, but he got a ton of chances, and now Jim Benning is also getting a lot of that due work. I mean, Jim Benning better be the nicest person in the humanity of humanity, because this guy has turned this team into nothing, has brought in the coach that has turned this team into nothing, and is probably still going to get about 3 more years at the very least to turn this team into something, which we all know will definitely not happen. And the reason I know that Jim Benning will stay as GM is because of the owner and the manager, Francisco Aquilini. If you don't know him, I mean, Canucks fans know him pretty well, but in the NHL landscape, Aquilini's not really known that much, especially compared to other owners like Eugene Melnyk, but I think he honestly should be, because this is a guy that, in terms of allowing mediocrity, is almost the absolute king of it, okay? This guy thrives on mediocrity, which is exactly why he loves Jim Benning, and I don't even know, again, Jim Benning must be the nicest person in the history of humanity to still be GM, but I really don't know why Jim Benning has been able to get all these opportunities, all of these chances to be something better. And I feel like the reason why we won't see a change is because of Francisco Aquilini. It's been known forever now that those two, Aquilini and Benning, have a seriously strong relationship, and that a likely change would have to be way out in the future. And I feel like for this Vancouver team, that honestly might be the biggest problem. For me, when it comes to being an NHL owner and having a GM for your team, I don't care if you're a great friend of mine. If you're putting my team that I own for billions, millions, trillions of dollars into the absolute dirt, I do not care if I'm good friends with you. I mean, obviously, I could give you a job as a janitor if you want, but I'm not going to give you the job as a GM of my NHL hockey team, okay? If you're doing a bad job, you're doing a bad job, and you deserve to be fired. That's how every single job pretty much works. If you do a bad job, you will get fired. And I feel like for Vancouver, for Aquilini, they forget that that's even a possibility, it feels like. Again, it feels so backwards. If I was putting so much money into an NHL team, the last thing I would want to do is have my friend and keep my bad friend who's doing a bad job as a GM of the Vancouver Canucks. It just makes no sense to me, but it's what Aquilini and Benning do, and that's why I think Benning will stay. Again, I don't think Benning's going to be gone until at least after this season, but again, that is heavily optimistic. I could see Benning honestly going for 10 years as Canucks GM, because he's on a pretty good track to do that. If he has gotten fired yet, I really don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. But this Vancouver team is in big trouble, man, and I really feel bad for all the Canucks fans out there on the channel and everywhere that have to deal with this team that likely won't even have that many changes anyways, which is vastly disappointing. But I feel like that's where I'm going to end my rant for today. You guys know my thoughts on Vancouver. I feel like just change is needed right from the very top, and it's one of those situations where I don't think it'll get better or that much better until it does. We'll see what Vancouver does, and I'm hoping that the change is actually going to come. We will see. But thank you guys so much much for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure that subscribe button, hit that like button, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Comment down below what your thoughts are on this Vancouver Canucks team. What moves do you think they should make? Who do you think is to blame for this team? And what do you think happens next? Make sure you comment all those thoughts down below. And make sure you share this video with your friends, get it to any Canucks fans or NHL fans you guys know online, and click on this card for all of my NHL rankings content right in one playlist. My name is Nathan. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.